So, where are we going?
Welcome to ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy. The Young Avengers have been confirmed to be coming to the MCU in Phase 6, and this is something that we've been predicting for a while. But now we're going to give you a deep dive on who the Young Avengers are, who they've been in the comics, and most importantly, who they will be in the MCU. And we're going to predict how this movie will tie into the Kang dynasty and the multiverse saga's conclusion. So the Marvels ends with Kamala Khan using Nick Fury's datapad to track down other young heroes. And she starts with Kate Bishop. And look, I think we can all agree, regardless of your feelings on the Marvels, that team up is going to be a lot of fun. Kamala reenacts the whole Nick Fury Iron Man post-credits scene and then says, "Did you know Scott Lang has a daughter?" Now this is finally setting up the Young Avengers, and it's about damn time.
So who are the Young Avengers?
So in the comics, let's go back to a time before the Young Avengers were formed. In the past, we've explained how in the comics, Wanda's twin babies, Billy and Tommy, didn't actually exist, and they were actually pieces of the soul of Mephisto.
Not the beast! Ah!
Now this almost drove Wanda insane, so Agatha Harkness erased the kids from her memory. And oh my god, look what fresh hell is this! Look how John Byrne draws a baby. Terrifying. Anyways, as we all know, Wanda is one of the most powerful Avengers in the comics and in the movies. She has the ability to rewrite reality, even subconsciously. So in the comics, after Wanda's kids were erased, the Wasp let it slip that Wanda used to have kids. So Wanda subconsciously remembered them and started to create events to destroy the Avengers to get back at them for lying to her about her children. She even destroyed their headquarters, and then she rewrote reality and eventually takes away all the powers of like 90% of all mutants. After this, everybody thinks that she dies.
But what's that all got to do with the Young Avengers?
It's context. Context. So you see, this event disbands the Avengers, kind of like how the Avengers are disbanded in the MCU right now, because there's not really an Avengers team anymore.
Excuse me, do you have that movie, The Flower That Drank the Moon?
Maybe, but I can't really help you right now. I'm kind of in the middle of something else here.
Okay, I'll just go somewhere else.
What was that? We had an actual customer in the store and you just let him walk? Man, we gotta make more money or you're gonna lose your job.
You know what? That's all right, because I'm gonna get another job, because right now I am learning programming and back-end website development, and I am gonna make so much money. According to Stack Overflow, the median salary for back-end developers in the US in 2023 was over $100,000 a year. And I'm gonna have the option to work from home and not at a desolate video store located at the end of time and space.
What? But you don't know anything about computers or web development or nothing.
No, I don't, and that is why I'm learning from Boot.dev. They're the sponsor of this video. Boot.dev is essentially a programming RPG where you earn XP, levels, achievements, and complete quests, and even a global leaderboard if you're motivated by competition. You see, Boot.dev understands that the best way to learn code is to make sure that you are never bored. The platform gets your hands on the keyboard and gets you writing a ton of code right away. So if you ever wanted to learn coding, this is the best way to start, because you learn by doing. You can learn back-end web development from start to finish in the Python and Go programming languages, and the Boot.dev Discord community is there to help if you ever get stuck on your coding challenges. So click the link in the description below and use my code to get 25% off your first payment for Boot.dev. That's 25% off your first month or your first year, depending on the subscription that you choose.
Yeah, that Boot.dev, that sounds like a pretty good deal, person.
Yes, it is. Now, back to what I was saying. Now, at this point, we're not sure if Kang even is still the main bad guy of the multiverse saga. More on that later. The Loki finale made it seem like his variants are all under control. Jonathan Majors is probably going to get shown the door, and there are rumors that Doctor Doom is going to become the next big bad of the multiverse saga. But if they recast Kang, if he still is the main villain of the multiverse saga, then he ties in perfectly with the Young Avengers, and that connection comes straight from the comics. But before Kang was a supervillain, he was an ordinary, well-meaning teenager named Nate. Now, one day, Kang shows up from the future and says, "Hey, I'm evil you from the future, come with me into the future and I'll teach you how to evil." And Nate is like, "No way, man," so he travels back into the past to find the Avengers and to get their help. But he arrives in the era when the Avengers are disbanded. Instead, he finds...
Ronald Reagan?
No, he finds...
Patrick Swayze?
No, you'll never get it right, stop.
The Vision?
Yeah, the Vision, right, good guess. So at this point, the Vision is mostly dead, but Nate finds a contingency program that was part of the Vision software. And this program was designed to find people who are related to the Avengers so they can reform the team. So because Nate is wearing this armor from the future, he calls himself Iron Lad, and then he and the Vision go around recruiting heroes to be in their new Young Avengers team. And actually, all of this was set up and foreshadowed foreshadowed for the MCU by everyone's favorite Avengers movie, Age of Ultron. So think about this in the MCU. White Vision has original Vision's memories and programs. I think it makes sense for him to have this protocol to reform the Avengers buried in his memory. After all, his dad, Ultron, was designed to be a peacekeeping program.
But what's that got to do with Vision?
Well, remember that Vision's consciousness is partly made up of Ultron's mind, because Ultron hadn't finished uploading his consciousness to the body. So maybe one of the peacekeeping initiatives that Tony Stark programmed into Ultron was to reform the Avengers if they were ever disbanded. And this initiative is rooted in the Vision subconscious, where Ultron's original memory hadn't quite finished uploading. So now, present day, Sour Cream Vision could use this protocol to reform the Avengers. I also think it would be great if Iron Lad and Kang were both descendants of Tony Stark instead of Reed Richards like it is in the comics. This would fit perfectly. Tony invented time travel, and we know that his family line lives on through Morgan, and his ancestor could have access to the Iron Man tech that he wears to go into the past. But I'm not actually even sure that Iron Lad's going to appear in this movie. We're already going to load up this roster with other characters, and introducing an alternate version of a villain from the future seems like a lot. It could even be that Cotton Ball Vision, after leaving Westview, went into a deep meditative computing state, where he worked out that for the multiverse to survive, he had to form a new team of Avengers.
But what does Vision know about the multiverse?
Well, Vision used to think about it a lot.
The multiverse. Viz had his theories. He believed it was real and dangerous.
So, in the comics, Vision and Iron Lad begin to recruit these people who were the children of former Avengers. First off, we have Hulkling. He is the son of the Kree superhero Mar-Vell, who in the comics was a guy and was the original Captain Marvel, and he later died of cancer. But I think Hulkling is going to be a little different in the MCU. I think he'll be replaced with Skaar, Hulk's son that we saw at the end of She-Hulk.
Oh no, but that was awful.
Yes, the introduction of Skaar in the MCU was the worst thing since somehow Palpatine returned. But in the comics, Skaar is amazing. He is the son of Hulk and another gladiator from the Planet Hulk comics. He was a warlord who took control of his planet, tied into the mysticism of the planet Skaar. And just because he had a lame introduction in the MCU, that doesn't mean that he can't be awesome in the Young Avengers. Anyways, I 100% think that he will be on the team, because why else would you do this? And real quick, I just want to say, everyone, thank you for watching our channel and continuing to support us through our merch store at ScreenCrushMerch.com, where we design the shirts ourselves. In honor of the Marvels, we made this Higher, Further, Faster shirt, the Fraser Beast parody shirt, Hannibal Flurkin, and Doug as a Flurkin. We also have a live show coming up in February in Brooklyn, New York, and you can find the link to buy tickets below. Plus, now you can become a channel member and get custom Doug emojis and loyalty badges. Thanks again for all of your support.
You're the best!
Okay, so who's next?
Next up, we have Patriot. Now, in the comics, he is the grandson of Isaiah Bradley, the first Captain America. In our Falcon and Winter Soldier coverage, I talked about how Isaiah was a super soldier who was forced to undergo experiments that killed off all of his fellow black soldiers. Now, he later stole a Captain America suit and was jailed for that for decades. But the legend spread about the black Captain America. And we saw a modified version of this in the show. Isaiah Bradley was experimented on, and he's bitter because the government used him for Black Ops missions and kept him away from the public eye.
They will never let a black man be Captain America.
And we briefly met his grandson, Elijah. So in the comics, Elijah wants to carry on his grandfather's legacy, so he becomes a hero called the Patriot. But he gets powers by taking an illegal drug called mutant growth hormone that gives him temporary abilities. And he lies about this, saying that he got a blood transfusion from his superpowered grandfather. Now, eventually, he did get that blood transfusion and did get powers. So I'm betting they're just gonna skip the middleman, and that's exactly what's gonna happen in the MCU.
Just cleaner that way.
Right? And then Disney doesn't have to show the leader of their new team of teenagers shooting up drugs to become a superhero.
Sends the wrong message.
Yes, it does. So I think that in the MCU, he'll get powers from his grandpa, then his grandpa will die, and then Elijah will want to carry on his legacy. Now in the comics, another person that Vision found was a teenager named William who had magical powers and at first called himself Asgardian, but eventually called himself Wiccan. And his algorithm program also turned up a totally different kid who looks exactly like Billy. And this kid was named Thomas, and Thomas had super speed.
Wait, William and Thomas, magic and speed. Could it be?
Yes, these are Wanda's twin sons, all grown up as teenagers.
But how can this be?
All right, let me explain. So this gets complicated. Wanda created these two sons.
Uh-huh.
The sons were actually made up from pieces of Mephisto's soul.
Not the bees, gotcha.
Then, in the comics, Mephisto was destroyed, and when that happened, these two soul shards became part of a very powerful force called the Life Force, and Wanda tried to get them back from this Life Force with the help of Dr. Doom. Long story short, the Life Force drove Wanda insane, no more mutants, etc., but it also brought her kids back to life, now as teenagers.
Boy, Boy, that's a lot.
Yeah, I know it is, but it's going to be a lot easier to bring them back in the movies. Remember how WandaVision ended? With Wanda hearing her kids crying out for help.
Yeah, how come Doctor Strange 2 didn't address that?
No one knows.
Okay then.
Alright, well, let's just say that the Billy and Tommy that Wanda created were real after a fashion. Maybe Wanda created Billy and Tommy in every other reality and they had no problem existing. But in this reality, the method she used to create them was unstable, so they were not sustainable. But when the hex dropped, their souls still existed, but they went out into the multiverse. So Charmin Vision, running his computations, would realize that the Young Avengers need Billy and Tommy. Specifically, the superpowered Billy and Tommy that Wanda created in the hex. And that's another important point. I don't think that any of the other Billy and Tommys in the multiverse have powers. The versions that we see in Multiverse of Madness are just ordinary kids. Alright, so Polar Bear Vision could have nightmares where Billy and Tommy call out for their dad for help. Remember, he is powered by Wanda's energy, the same magical energy that allowed her to hear her kids out in the multiverse. So maybe Vision's goal is just to retrieve his boys from limbo. To bring Billy and Tommy back, he would need the help of a sorceress who could travel the multiverse at will. Luckily, we now have America Chavez, who was a Young Avenger in the comics. Hell, America may even find Billy and Tommy on her own during her studies. The point is, Billy and Tommy will return as their superpowered selves, Wiccan and Speed. A few other members of this team are easy to introduce. In the comics, Cassie Lang secretly stole her dad's PIM particles for years, which gave her the ability to grow, and she called herself Stature. And the poster for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania shows Cassie with Hope and Scott. So maybe she was exposed to some PIM particles during the blip. Or maybe there's an accident that exposes her to some PIM particles that give her permanent growing powers.
Don't you think Scott could just make her an Ant-Man suit?
No, I don't think he would willingly put his daughter in danger, so it's more likely that she gets her powers and then they become permanent. Kate Bishop is another founding member of the Young Avengers, and we've already seen her introduced in Hawkeye.
What do you think of Lady Hawk?
Oh, yeah, that's terrible.
Another Young Avengers member that's been teased in the MCU is Kid Loki. Alright, so in the comics, Loki was de-aged to a kid and then became a teenager. Look, it's a long story. What you need to know is that this kid version of Loki was pretending to be a good guy or trying to be a good guy, but he still had his own agenda.
Surprise!
Now in the comics, he wanted to steal the powers of Wiccan because he's such a powerful sorcerer. And remember, we were introduced to Kid Loki in the show Loki, and he was kind of a badass.
What was your Nexus event, Your Majesty?
I killed Thor.
And the final member of the team from the comics is a teenage version of Vision who is fused with the original Vision's mind and the technology of Iron Lad's suit.
But how could all of these threads come together in one movie?
Well, I have some theories that I would love to tell you guys about. So, in the comics, the first arc is very much about Iron Lad trying to change his future so he doesn't become Kang. He ends up making the timeline way worse and he actually kills Kang, but Kang is like the COVID-19 of the time stream. You can't ever actually kill him because there's always another variant. The series basically ends with Iron Lad becoming evil and then running off into the future to become Kang. But I don't think we're likely to see time travel as a part of this series, because the movie version of Kang is way more focused on the multiverse. In fact, the show Loki already established that time travel basically just is tied directly into the multiverse. But it is possible for Iron Lad to still be a younger version of Kang like he is in the comics. So, like I said, I think that Tucker Carlson Vision will activate his protocol to reform the Avengers, and his algorithm will determine that the multiverse is about to pose a threat to existence. So he'll seek out America Chavez to rescue his boys from the multiverse, with the help of the other heroes he's recruited: Patriot, Kate Bishop, Hulkling, and Cassie Lang. And they'll be joined by Kamala Khan and Riri Williams, aka Ironheart. And who knows, we might even see the addition of Love from Love and Thunder. Now there is also a long, terrific arc in the comics where the Young Avengers travel through the multiverse with America Chavez to rescue Tommy from an evil parasite dimension. This is a great read by Kieran Gillen, Jamie McKelvey, and Mike Norton. Now, this arc is about the team facing off with this interdimensional parasite called Mother, who could be the bad guy in this movie. I mean, maybe all the Vision's algorithm could reveal was that there was some kind of multiversal threat. The heroes think it's this Mother parasite, but the threat's actually been Kang all along.
What?
One thing I will guarantee is that the team goes off into the multiverse, where maybe they'll encounter the dead world from Loki where they encountered Goliath. So just to recap, this is a world on the edge of time and space, where the TVA would send pruned objects and people. It's filled with beings and things that would be a threat to the sacred timeline. These threats are then devoured by Goliath, and Goliath is a big space cloud dog that was formed from the cracks in reality that resulted from the multiversal war.
I weaponized Goliath. And I ended the multiversal war.
Now remember, He Who Remains no longer controls the TVA. It belongs to Kang. So Kang could still use this world and be using Alioth to erase beings that threaten his rule. So Billy and Tommy could be two beings like this. In the comics, Billy is destined to become a demiurge. That's a sorcerer so powerful he can rewrite the universe. And it makes sense that Kang would want him to be erased. He's a threat. And Billy and Tommy could be on this dead world with Kid Loki, which is how he would join the team. This is where the story could dovetail into another Young Avengers story, the Children's Crusade. This story is about Billy and Tommy tracking down their mom, Wanda, and helping her redeem her good name. So the comics even feature Billy using his power to peer into the multiverse. So it would make sense if he had a similar power in the movie. So there's actually a bit more to this story involving Doctor Doom, that being called the Life Force, the X-Men fighting the Avengers, time travel, but I do think we'll see a simplified version of this play out on screen. Maybe when Wanda destroyed the Darkhold in every reality, she herself became lost in the multiverse. Maybe in one of those freaky dimensions we saw in Doctor Strange. So now, kind of like Orpheus saving Eurydice from hell, these kids must go save Wanda. This would fit into the theme of this multiverse saga, that it's up to the next generation to fix the mistakes of the previous Avengers. I mean, think about it. The Avengers created time travel, which created a variant Loki, and this variant Loki allowed Kang to rise to power and destroy the sacred timeline.
You mess with time, it tends to mess back.
Imagine if White Vision's algorithm reveals that Wanda is the key to saving the multiverse. He would then send these teens on a quest to free his wife from the confines of this other dimension. And he knows from like math and stuff.
I have an equation.
Oh, this will clear it up.
That this group is the only group that can save her. The movie may end with a WandaVision reunion, bringing together the family as kind of a weirdo version of the Fantastic Four. Hell, maybe there even was no multiversal threat to begin with, and the Vision was just trying to reunite with Wanda because he missed her. Now, I mentioned earlier that they might be dumping Kang as the big bad from the multiverse saga and replacing him with Doctor Doom. It is just a rumor, nobody really knows for sure, but it could happen. Now, if that does happen, then like I said earlier, there is a storyline from the comics that would perfectly tie Doom into the multiverse saga. An early Young Avengers storyline saw the team traveling to Latveria to track down Billy and Tommy's mother, Wanda the Scarlet Witch, where they found out her memory had been erased and she was engaged to Doctor Doom. Now, like I said, it's comic books, the story gets way more complicated than that.
It is never simple.
If Billy and Tommy do return to the MCU as teenagers in Agatha, House of the Harkness, Darkhold, whatever it's called now, but if they return, then they and the Young Avengers could be like, hey, you know, I think my mom is still alive and she tried to find us, so I'm going to go find her, which would take them to Latveria, introduce Doctor Doom, or maybe he would have already appeared in the Fantastic Four by this point. But those actions, having all these multiversal characters like America Chavez and Billy and Tommy interact with Doom, could set Doom up to be like the person who says, oh no, I want to take control of the multiverse. And then we would have a repeat of the 2015 Secret Wars comic where Doctor Doom was the one who saved the multiverse from collapse by basically building a patchwork planet where he was God Emperor Doom, and then the heroes had to like rebel after that. We could be seeing all that happen, and that entire story could be starting with the Young Avengers. Well guys, that's just my thoughts on what's coming up for this. It's one of the MCU projects I've been excited for years. If you're looking forward to it or if you're not, let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.